This is Chapter 4, Lesson 4, Multiply Mixed Numbers. So, when we're multiplying a fraction and a mixed number, to multiply a fraction and a mixed number, first write the mixed number as an improper fraction. Remember that when mixed numbers are written as improper fractions, the denominator does not change. Then multiply as with fractions. When I multiply mixed numbers, to multiply two mixed numbers, write each mixed number as an improper fraction. Use the greatest common factor, or GCF, to simplify. So for example, number 1, it says find 1/3 times 1 3/4. Write in simplest form. Estimate. So I can use comparable numbers. 1/2 times 2 equals 1, because 1/3 is close to 1/2, and 1 3/4 is close to 2. Okay, so I know my answer is going to be somewhere around 1. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to change 1 3/4 to an improper fraction. Okay, remember when we're going to improper fractions, we're going to take the denominator, multiply it by the whole number, then add it to the numerator. So 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So that's where I get the 7 from. So it's 7/4. So now I have 1/3 times 7/4. So then I just multiply straight across. 1 times 7 is 7, and 3 times 4 is 12. Example number 2. Find 5 1/2 times 1/3. Write in simplest form. Okay, so if I'm going to estimate, 5 1/2 is close to, we'll say 6, and 1/3 is close to 1/2. So I have 6 times 1/2, half of 6 is 3. Okay. So 5 1/2 times 1/3 equals blank times 1/3. So remember, I need to change 5 1/2 to an improper fraction. So 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So I have 11 halves, 11 over 2. Remember, your denominator stays the same. Okay. Now I'm going to multiply my numerators and my denominators. 11 times 1 is 11. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay. Now I'm going to change it back to a mixed number. 6 goes into 11 one time. I have 5 left over, and my denominator stays 6. So you get 11/6 or 1 5/6. My third example, the Hoover Dam contains 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete. The Grand Coulee Dam in Washington State contains 2 2/3 times as much concrete. How much concrete does it contain? So we're going to take the two numbers that they gave us, 4.5, and multiply it by 2 2/3. Okay, 4.5, I'm going to change from a mixed number to an improper fraction. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9, so I get 9 halves. Then 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, so I get 8/3. Okay, I can then simplify 9 halves times 8/3. 3 and 9, this goes in 3 times, this goes in once, and 2 and 8, so cross simplify. 3 times 4 gives me 12, 1 times 1 gives me 1, so I have 12 over 1, or 12. Okay, don't forget to simplify. Okay. So there are 12 million cubic yards of concrete in the Grand Coulee Dam. There are 4 try-it problems on page 75. Go ahead, pause the video, try them out, and when you're done, we will go over the answers together. All right, now that you've tried out the try-it problems, let's go over the answers together. Letter A says 2/3 times 2 1/2. So 2/3 stays the same, but I'm going to change 2 1/2 to an improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. My denominator stays the same. Now I can rewrite it. 2/3 times 5/2. 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. Then I can simplify. I can divide both 10 and 6 by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I get 5/3, and then I can change this back into a mixed number. 3 goes into 5 one time with 2 left over, and my denominator stays the same as 3. So I get 5/3 or 1 2/3. Letter B says 3/8 times 3 1/3. So I'm going to change 3 1/3 to an improper fraction. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, so I get 10/3. So then I have 3/8 times 10/3. 3 times 10 is 30. 8 times 3 is 24. I can divide both of these by 3. 30 divided by 3 is 10. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Okay, so now I have 10/8, which I can then divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now I have 5/4, or 1 1/4 if I change it back to a mixed number. Letter C says 1 7/8 times 3 1/3. So 1 7/8 equals 8 times 1 is 8, plus 7 is 15, so I get 15/8, and then 3 1/3. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So now I have 15/8 times 10/3. Okay. I can look at what cross simplifies. Okay. 3 can go into 15 one time. 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. 2 can go into both 8 and 10, so 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay. So then I have 5 times 5 is 25, and 4 times 1 is 4. Then I can ask myself, how many times does 25 go into 4? Okay, so I get 25/4 equals 6, with 1 left over, and 4 as my denominator. Okay. Letter D, Mr. Wilkins is laying bricks to make a rectangular patio. The area he is covering with bricks is 15.5 feet by 9 3/4 feet. What is the area of the patio? So area is length times width. So I'm going to take 15.5 times 9 3/4. I need to change these from mixed numbers into improper fractions. So 2 times 15 is 30, plus 1 is 31. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 3 is 39. So now I have 31 halves times 39 fourths. And then I can multiply straight across. 31 times 39 is 1,209. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay. Then I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 8 go into 1,209? It's 151. Okay. With 1 left over. So 151 and 1/8 squared feet is the area of the patio. And that is the end of lesson 4.